I'm a lifelong Southerner, married to an Indian man who grew up in South Africa during apartheid, and I am fiercely proud of both. If you don't like that, well, bless your heart. I'm Sheryl Parbhoo, and this is Southern Life, Indian Wife. Bren McClain is the author of the award-winning novel, One Good Mama Bone. She and I met in 2018 in a project that featured our novels in a lineup of Southern fiction titles that traveled around the Southeast U.S. I hadn't even read her book when we met, and immediately I suspected she was someone special. And then I read her book, and her writing confirmed my suspicions. Bren's writing talent is a force. She lives outside of Nashville, Tennessee, on 100-acre woods she calls Peace of Soul Acres, and she's currently working on her next novel entitled Took. In this episode, we talk about her growing up in and leaving Anderson, South Carolina, her writing journey, and how her spirituality flows into her writing. Bren is a kind soul. She is a supportive soul. Hear what she has to say about One Good Mama Bone and her work in progress here. I guarantee you're going to end this episode needing to read her work. And here she is, Bren McClain. Bren, it is so fun having you here today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's such an honor, Sheryl. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is great because, this is, I think, the first time I have gotten you all to myself to be able to talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Oh, I know, because we've always been in groups, wonderful groups. But yeah, this is one-on-one, and I can't wait to explore life and all that we're going to talk about.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I kind of feel like, kind of maybe hooting and hollering a little bit, but I might get my dogs barking and then that'll interfere.
I can hear them howling. Oh,
yep. Yeah, we don't want that.
No, we do not.
No. But anyway, thank you so much for taking time away from your writing, because I know that you are deep in writing mode.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. Right now, I'm pretty much on my fourth cup of coffee because I've been trying to write early in the morning too.
Good.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It is going. It's going really well. In that revision stage, and that's tough. You always go back and second guess yourself.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Oh, man. Because really, writing is about making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I go through my first draft, I could say it like this, or I could say it like this, or it could be like this, and I just kind of keep moving. But when you go back in revision, you've got to make a decision.
You have to make that really critical decision because that's permanent, I guess, once you're on your last version of revisions.
It is, and I always find that difficult. So I'm in the creation stage right now, which to me is a lot more fun because, all kinds of things are possible at this moment.
So how do you get into that writing mode? Because I know you live on like 100-acre woods like Winnie the Pooh. And, you have a lot of distractions. I know you've got chickens. Do you have to get up early in the morning to milk your chickens or something before you write?
You are not a farm girl. You are showing yourself, girlfriend.
Oh, no, I am not a farm girl.
No, you are not. No, well, the roosters start crowing. Rudy. Yeah, Rudy 2 and Kingpin are the two roosters. And one has his flock on one side of the yard and the other one on the other. And they do this competing rooster business going on about 4:30 or so. The good news is I'm already up. I like to get up around 3 to 3:30 every morning and work. Ooh. And I write with via soundtracks. I listen to soundtracks on a headphone, and so I don't hear them a lot. But trust me, 4:30 in the morning, Kingpin and Rudy 2 are just calling back and forth, trying to outdo each other in their rooster calls.
Oh boy! Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you do live way out in the boonies.
Oh yeah, my goodness! Yes.
What kind of soundtrack do you listen to? What kind of gets you going? Well, I write in silence. I have to have everything gone. So how does that work for you? Yeah.
It creates a mood, and it depends on the scene that I'm writing. The mood that the scene is, whether it's like very emotional, if the scene is in the beginning of the book or at the end of the book, different music. There's kind of like payoff music, like, near the end of the book, like crescendo climax payoff music, when like all of the instruments in that movie, it would be towards the end of the soundtrack, obviously. Everything, all the threads kind of start coming together. In the beginning, just like in a novel, in a soundtrack, that kind of lays out what the central motif is, a musical motif is. And then what I love about soundtracks is you listen to the whole thing, and the composer will go back and visit some form of that core motif. And make it busy or make it slow or blah 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 blah, just like in a novel. And so that's why I love to listen to soundtracks. And I don't want any vocals. I mean, no words, none of that kind of stuff. Pure instrumental to set the tone.
Oh, yeah, that really gets your brain creating. You get onto that wavelength.
Well, it does, but bigger than my brain, it connects with my heart. That's the biggest thing. It kind of puts my heart in motion and kind of gets it thrumming in that, for that kind of emotion, whether it's, full of love or fear or regret or mournful, sad, blah, blah, blah. Name the emotions. And that music triggers that in my heart.
Oh, wow. That, actually, that sounds like a really good idea. I may have to try that because, I'll sit in a silent room and, I'm completely in my head, just like you are. But, it's hard to get that inspiration. And sometimes I'll even go to Starbucks and, the jazz music that they have going in the background and the barista, steaming the milk, that kind of helps me. But I may have to try the whole soundtrack thing. Do you have a favorite one?
At the time. And I just discovered it. It's Saving Sarah Kane, Cain. I had never heard of that at all. His name is, I've forgotten, the McDonald, maybe Mark McDonald or something like that, for the composer. And I have just fallen deeply in love with that. That's the one that I play. And I find I'm playing song 9 right now on that soundtrack. And Sheryl, what I do is I just put it on repeat, and I could listen for 4 hours just to that one song as I write that scene.
How long will you be able to sit and write at one stretch?
Maybe 2 hours at the most, without needing to get up, stretch my legs, get some more coffee, go milk my chickens. Yeah, but I would say I can get lost for about 2 hours, but more likely you'll be more in the 1 hour range. More likely. What about you? How far long can you go?
I can sit there until I have to pee.
Well,
usually
you're more polite
hours.
than me. Okay, I was going to say that, but I think I just said something like etc.
Right. Okay. I have no filter. Definitely, I have no filter anymore these days.
Then that's the same with me. All right. Yes, that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it. Also, yes.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. So you live in this patch of woods. You live in the middle of waterfalls and trees. How does that contribute to your ability to be able to sit down and get into your writing?
Oh, gosh.
So before you lived there, how did your writing process work?
Well, I've always been, I think I was a cat in a former life. I do. I love seclusion. I love cozy, dark places, small places. Because where I write in the house is beneath a stairwell. And so I have to actually, open a door because the floor is lowered above it. I have to bow to go into it, Sheryl, which puts me in a state and spirit of subservience to the work. And then I bow. I have to go around this little corner. And then there's this old gutted organ from the 1800s that I write in. That's where my laptop is on top of, the desk part of it. So I think living with all of these trees and all, it's seclusion. It's kind of a maximum version of this little place that I write in. Secluded, cozy, And so I don't know what it does for me. It makes me feel safe. It makes me feel like the world is shut out so that I really can create. No distractions. I say that this place, call it Peace of Soul Acres, it gives me rejuvenation. It replenishes me because, for work, I'm a communications consultant. And that means I have to leave the house to go to the airport and go on site somewhere with a client. And then the last 2.5 years, I've been promoting One Good Mama Bone and 87,000 miles. So, oh my gosh, have I been out there. But when
oh my goodness, 87,000 miles?
87,000 miles.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That is just insane.
Well, that is insane. And I think I'm certifiable. Just, don't come with the little butterfly nets, please, for me. But you can see then, because my life is a real external life when I go to work. I mean, it's way out there. It's not even in Nashville. It's somewhere else. And so when I come home, I really need to be cocooned.
Right.
And I really need to get replenished. I say that this place is my church. It's where I worship. Nature teaches me everything I need right here. I see sacrifice. I see support. I see rejuvenation. I see even in dead trees, they're still being used. The woodpeckers, that come by, the kind of in service to the whole. Like in nature, nothing is by itself for itself. It all works in community and it all works as a whole. And so I get so many lessons here when I walk outside so that I'm a stronger, better person when I go out.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And, that's just so completely different from my world. And it sounds really fantastic because, I live on about 1/3 of an acre lot on a golf course. I can spit on my neighbors. And
now, don't you spit on them, though. Don't you dare.
Well, sometimes when they're loud and cussing at football games outside watching TV, I want to.
Yes, I get it.
Yep. And I have to go into a corner. I have to find a corner somewhere in my house, but usually there's not really a corner that I can escape from my children and my mother and my husband. So,
I know.
I do kind of envy that. But, that rural, natural nature lifestyle that you have, that's just not something that I grew up with or ever thought was a thing because I always lived in the suburbs. So talk about how you, thank you. And, maybe when I get into retirement and my kids are grown, my husband has talked about buying an RV. So we can just go drive around to, see nature, go to the Rocky Mountains, whatever we want to do, get away from our kids. Yes. And we can go visit them when we want to, but they can't find us.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm in full support of that, girl.
Yeah. So maybe I will get to commune with nature when all is said and done with these little people that live in my house.
But what a fantastic mom you are. I've seen you in action, and that's a blessing, and it's one that I'll never know in this lifetime.
But that's okay, because I think you're sort of a maternal figure to people with the way that you kind of nurture their spirit. Because I know that you have done that with me. Just in any kind of conversation, you are able to build me up and tell me, stop talking bad about yourself. Be good to yourself, woman.
I know. Throw those bad tapes away, go and stomp on them and put some new good tapes in your head that you listen to.
Yeah, yes. And that's a really nurturing thing. It doesn't have to be that you're nurturing your own biological children. You nurture a lot of people. So,
thank you. How kind of you. That's very sweet. Thank you, Sheryl. That's, I think, one of the benefits. Sometimes I think about my existence here as being a very selfish existence because I don't have 5 kids to take care of, and nor will I ever have grandkids and all of those kinds of wonderful things that can come in a person's life. But I think because of my my being in silence a lot, and this replenishment thing I was talking about, I think what it does is it helps me then go and be more in service to others, because what I want to do is I want to at least leave people as well off as they were when they were in my presence,
Yes.
And if not better, and if I could somehow leave people better off, man, that's what is so awesome and so wonderful. But, I never, ever want to leave somebody worse off for having known me or having, talked to me or been around me. That would just crush my soul. And I think this time that I spend in nature and secluded and cocooned helps me have more to give other people.
Yeah, that makes total sense, because people like me, I mean, of course, I try to be kind to people, but
Yes.
I do not have the opportunity to take that time to make it a conscious decision to do that with people. I try to, but I'm running around yelling at kids and yelling in traffic. And so I guess, what you do, I guess it is a lesson for people like me that are kind of on that hamster wheel, just trying to keep going to survive. So I love that.
Yeah. So we all have different lives. And so, yours works and mine works, and other people who are listening, their lives are working for them, or at least
Absolutely.
I hope so.
Yes, let's hope so. And maybe listening to this will help them to think about it and be more conscious about how they live their lives in a positive way. So when you were growing up, I mean, how did your childhood feed into the kind of person that you are today? Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Anderson, South Carolina, a very small town in the upstate of South Carolina. Most people have heard of Clemson University, except, especially since it won the national football championship, about 14 miles from Clemson. Grew up on a 72-acre beef cattle and grain farm. My grandparents across the road. I had the most wonderful, steady, secure, safe kind of life. It gave me everything. It shaped everything that I am today. And I think in my writing, I'm always trying to get back there, because even in, One Good Mama Bone, it's set on that farm. The book that I'm writing now is set on a farm. It's an existence that I believe wholeheartedly in. I mean, I grew up in a time, Sheryl, that, mothers and daddies weren't scared for their kids to get kidnapped or other worse things,
Right.
I mean, we played till after dark. We were on our bicycles going on all kind of roads here and there. We were down in the woods. We, played in creeks with water moccasins. It was just a different. Oh, I mean, there were water moccasins everywhere. I mean, but we didn't think about that. Here's the word, Sheryl. I grew up free. That's it. I grew up
Not
free.
many people in this world can say that. And not many people in this world can say that they had a wonderful childhood.
I know.
People tend to just say, oh, well, this was wrong. I grew up, my parents did this, or I was cheated about this. It's amazing. You're so very blessed that you can say that.
I'm blessed, and a real anchor. I grew up in a time when somebody said something to you. I mean, they did it. They followed through. My world was a very, very steady, secure world. I think that just gave me all kinds of grounding. I was very moored. I don't know. It set me for the rest of my life.
Yes. That's wonderful. And, when I read One Good Mama Bone, I could feel that and feel you in your writing and in the story. And, but I've kind of wondered, I didn't grow up in a small town. I didn't have a hometown. My parents moved me to about 9 states, I think, before I settled down and went to college and then got married. So I cannot relate to that at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's just night and day different, isn't it? The way we grew up.
It sure is. It sure is. But I also wonder, what it would be like to grow up in a small little South Carolina town. You're a white girl.
Yes.
And, what kind of connection did you have with other people?
Just like me.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm telling you, Sheryl.
Segregated.
No, it was a very sameness world.
Oh.
Okay, so let's go back to it. So I went to New Prospect Baptist Church that we could see from the farm. My great granddaddy planted the trees there. My grandparents lived across the road behind us. My father's brother, my uncle lived. So McClain, just all over the place out there.
Uh-huh.
I went to school with the children that lived on the farms around there. We went to that same church, and I grew up thinking, I didn't know you even had a choice for churches. I just knew that was that. We did not have at Centerville Elementary School all white until I was in the 6th grade.
Huh.
And an African American boy named Michael, one African American was placed in that school. When I was in the 6th grade, his name was Michael. I can remember him now. I'm gonna cry. I can remember him wearing a shirt that was like too small for him, but it was like buttoned up. And I remembered when I saw him thinking, his mama probably dressed him like for church or something.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what it would be like for him to have walked into that world, Sheryl. Are you kidding me? I grew up in a world that was very, very same, not only white, but Protestant. I remember only one Catholic in that school. His name was Ron Spinhardy. And I didn't know what in the world to make of that. What religion is that? Catholic.
Yeah. Is Catholic even Christian? I know a lot of people said, Southern denominations. Yeah, they think that's not even Christian.
Not even Christian. You just think Protestant. So my world, as wonderful as it was, I've described the safety and security of it. And here's another S word, same. So I had a very safe, secure, same world. That's where I grew up.
So what was your reaction to this boy that came into your school so late in your childhood?
My heart went out to him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
did
my heart went out
to
to him.
befriend him, or did you feel like you had pressure from your friends that wasn't okay?
No, it's just, what? Shame on me, darling. I didn't reach out to him. No.
You know what, though? I mean, I think that that's of course, that's not a good thing for him, but I guess it was a really brave and scary thing for him to go through. But I can relate to how you felt because I kind of went through the same thing in middle school. I was in a school where we were bused in Raleigh, North Carolina. Busing to different areas was a thing to integrate the schools, even back in the 80s. And I went to this magnet school that was in a very African-American urban part of Raleigh. And there were a few Indian kids and maybe 2 or 3 African-American kids that were in my little gifted and talented magnet group. And then the rest of the school, the general population was, 99% African-American. And I think we self-segregated because they're different. We're different.
Yes.
And I even had a crush on an Indian boy. I guess that was the beginning of,
precursor, foreshadowing. Look at you.
Yes. But I couldn't admit it to anybody. I couldn't admit it to my friends. I certainly couldn't admit it to my parents. And I think it's just because of, growing up. That's just the rules that we sort of live by.
Yeah.
But don't you think that that's a good experience for you to see?
Yes.
And, see that child and what he was going through. And do you think that it affected your life as you went through life and maybe moved from there?
I don't know. Maybe, things that I am drawn to writing about, and these are your words, not mine, the underrepresented. We've talked about that. My heart just goes out to the underrepresented. I mean, it just chokes me up. I didn't even know that I even had that memory of Michael until we're talking about this now, this shirt that he had on.
Wow.
I didn't even know I stored that away somewhere. And how did I remember his name? I wonder how many of the kids I went to school with would even remember him, much less his name. I don't know. But I remember him.
Yeah, it made a mark on you.
It made a mark on me, yes. Totally, yes.
So this small town that you grew up in, what do you think their reaction would have been if my Indian husband had driven through there back in, say, the 70s or 80s and stopped at a gas station? Because I've got a story for you.
Wow.
My family is from Kentucky, and my parents grew up in Louisville. But my grandparents and great-grandparents and all the rest of them were from a small town called Boston, Kentucky. I don't even know how far away it is from Louisville, but it's pretty much out in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And when I was a newlywed, my husband and I had just gotten married. My cousin passed away, and he was buried out in the family cemetery out in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know where we were going. So he and I are traveling from Memphis and got lost. And so he stopped at a gas station. There was nothing else around. It was just this gas station. Oh. He said he walked in there and there were 3 or 4 guys, with mullets. Tattoos.
Oh, I know. I can see it now. Yes, yes.
And he said they were having conversations, and literally all of them just stopped what they were talking about and stared at him. And when he asked the cashier for directions to the funeral home, he said nothing, and he just pointed down the street.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm curious about, was it just this small town? Did we just have an uncomfortable experience just because we were unlucky? Or what do you think it would have been like in Anderson?
Same.
Really?
No doubt. I don't know about in the 80s. I don't know, but maybe I know in the 60s, I know in the 70s. I mean, Dharmesh would have been, okay. So back to the sameness thing I've been talking about. Uh-huh. I would think, we had a small cadre of Jewish people in town. Mm-hmm. And they lived on the other side of the railroad tracks. I lived on the farming side of Anderson. The other side of town was, business people, doctors, lawyers, blah, blah, blah. And the Jewish people tended to live on that other side of town. They had several businesses downtown Anderson. Mm-hmm. I think they were maybe looked on as an anomaly. That was a very small subset in Anderson. And I think if Dharmesh had come through, I think it would have been the same reaction. I think maybe just some pointing and maybe some, I don't know. I don't know if there would have been some crossing of arms, backing up, whispering, terrible things. But the sameness, back to the sameness thing. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think especially with Dharmesh, in these little southern towns, people didn't know what he was. They didn't know how to categorize him. I think they just saw that he was brown, but he wasn't African American. So what is he? And since I don't know what he is, I don't like him.
Exactly.
I think there's that fear of the different.
What are you doing here? Yeah, what are you doing here? You're probably up to no good. We aren't your people, that kind of stuff. Terrible, terrible. Yes.
Yep. But I think when we get out of these small towns, when we get exposed to different people, we change. When did you leave Anderson? First of all, what was... I know I like to backtrack. So when you were growing up there, what was that expectation of you as a girl? Did you expect to get out of town? Did you expect to just get married and settle down and have babies and live on the farm? What was that like?
Oh, yeah. There was an expectation. I mean, no, I didn't even know being a writer was a possibility for me at all. Mm-hmm. I was the valedictorian of my high school class.
Oh,
so
aren't you smarty pants?
Well, I only say that because, there was, nobody really in high school trying to, get me to go anywhere and do anything. None of my teachers, none of the guidance counselors, my family, nobody in my family had ever been to college. I think marriage, just getting married and having a family. And maybe, getting a job at the bank or something as a teller. Okay. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Really being a teacher, maybe being a nurse, really that's, that would have been, where I was headed in most people's minds. Mm-hmm.
So what took you out of Anderson? How did you get out of there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's what happened. So I married my high school sweetheart, and I married him August 4th, right after I graduated from high school at the end of May. I gave up, Sheryl, a scholarship, a full ride to a college to marry him. I was going to be he was going to be a preacher. Okay. And I was going to be a preacher's wife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Gave up a full scholarship. I was valedictorian for that life. I mean, look at what I did. Look at what I did to myself.
Yeah.
And so I, was married to him. He was going to college. I was working at a department store selling clothes. And with the intention that I was going to get on with probably South Carolina National Bank as a teller. Oh, are you kidding me? But after a year, yes,
instead of college, and
yes,
oh
girl.
My goodness, yeah,
yes, this is crazy. And so I Anderson College, it's university now. I just said, I think I'll just take a class, just one class. And the one class that I took was English, And girl, I loved it. And then the next semester I took like a full semester. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. I was, this is what I want. And so I applied to Furman and was accepted. And so my husband and I moved to Greenville. We'd been living in Anderson at the time, and he transferred to Furman also, but he didn't like it so much. And then he went on to Clemson. But anyway, so I did that, and I got a degree at Furman University in English. I taught high school for 1 year. I did not like I didn't like that because I wanted to be a little more mobile. So I got into journalism. I was a newspaper reporter in the local newspaper. I was a radio reporter.
Oh my goodness! I had no idea.
Yeah, I did that, and then. One day I found out, I know, I saw a brochure or something that at Stanford University in California, there was something called a Mass Media Institute. You could go there for, I think it was 4 months. It was a crash course in broadcast journalism. And then you would get like an audition tape. Mm-hmm. And here's where my life changed. That's the day my life changed, because I started thinking, I think I'm going to apply. Wow. What? I had never been on an airplane.
Oh my goodness.
I had been as far as Daytona Beach from Anderson and and Asheville, North Carolina, and Myrtle Beach, blah, blah, blah. I'd never been on a plane. I was married. This was, So anyway, I applied. I was accepted. Wow, this would be in the summer of 83 or 4 or 5, something like that. I forgot.
What a leap for you, I think.
It was a leap. But I felt propelled. It was like my life's destiny propelling me. I know it. And I know that there were some people at our church who actually said to my husband, you can't make her stay at home. And of course, the answer was no.
No, you can't.
And girl, he drove me to Atlanta, and I caught a flight to San Francisco.
Wow.
And my life changed. My life, that's where my world not just opened, but it was flung wide open, the doors. And you couldn't put me back in the box that I had been in. I had, and that's where my life launched, through that experience.
What an experience. I mean, that is such a brave thing for a girl from a small town in the South to be able to just go and say, I'm doing it. I'm chasing my dream.
I'm going to do it. I felt this surge. And so I did, and came back to South anyway. So my life literally upside down changed from that experience. Yes.
So where'd you go?
So that's how I got out of Anderson. And so I got my first TV job in Columbia, South Carolina. Oh, wow. And then I moved to Chattanooga. I was on the air. I was an anchor. And then I went to the Greenville Spartanburg market and worked in television. And so that's how it all happened.
Man, you became just a worldly person. That's pretty cool.
It just opened, and I didn't even realize what a Southern accent was. I mean, here I am, little Anderson, South Carolina girl, going out to Stanford now. There were people from Paris studying there, people from all over the world. I interned at KPIX, which is the CBS affiliate in San Francisco. And I became very aware of my Southern accent. Can I tell you what I did to try and work on that while I was out there?
Oh, yes, please do, because my son has to go through that.
Oh, well, there was a television anchor at the time named Jessica Savage on NBC, and I thought she had the most amazing diction. I loved the way she talked. So I went to a little store out there in Palo Alto, and I bought a tape recorder, the old-timey tape recorder with the cassette tapes, that kind of thing. And I think she came on like the weekends, like Saturday and Sunday at 6:30 or something like that. Anyway, I set that recorder in front of the TV and I recorded her entire newscast. And Sheryl, then the next step is to transcribe that newscast and read it back with her. And that's how I taught myself to round out my words, open my mouth, blah, blah, blah. So I always say that Jessica Savage was my speech coach.
Now, you do know that you still got a Southern accent, right?
Girl, I do. And
you didn't get rid of it.
And, you're around me too much and it's going to come way, 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 way out. But, I kind of lost it for that. But I've returned to it because it's who I am. Why would I want to deny who I am as long as people can understand me? And again, I think it's just a matter of opening my mouth a little bit more, because I do want people to understand. But so that was my journey. That's what got me out of Anderson right there.
Oh, that is so interesting. I just had no idea, because everybody has such a different journey from, where they started in their childhood to writing. My journey to writing was it started because it was therapy for me when my kids were growing up, and I was always a writer, and I won awards in high school and things like that.
Oh,
but
congratulations.
I was like, thank you. But I was like you. I never really thought that was an option for me. Who goes on to be able to write books? Not somebody like me. Yeah. So that's very interesting. So let's talk about your writing life and where you started with One Good Mama Bone. Let's talk about the beginning of that book. Tell us what the book is about a little bit, and then where it got started.
So it's a story really at its core that celebrates motherhood. And it's the story really of two mothers, a human, Sarah Creamer, who's the main character in the novel, who doesn't think she has a mama bone, that is maternal instinct. Why? Because when she was 6 years old, her mother said to her, "You ain't got you one good mama bone in you, girl." And it set up this belief in little girl Sarah Creamer. Well, she grows up, gets married, and her husband and very best friend have an affair, and a child is born from that. And Sarah alone is left behind to take care of this child. This is 1951, rural Anderson, South Carolina. Dirt, poor. Harold drank the money. Harold's her husband, drank the money. He couldn't live with himself. She has nothing to feed this child, but she doesn't think she can. How in the world she said, "I wouldn't be no good mama. I don't know how to be no mama." So the story is about what Sarah Creamer does to give herself a new narrative, a new way of thinking about herself. Indeed, to prove her mother wrong and to really find out and set off on that journey about how can she get her mama bone. And therein lies mama number two in the novel, because it's a mother cow named Mama Red who comes to live in Sarah's midst and begins to teach Sarah Creamer all things mother. So that's basically what the book is about. So One Good Mama Bone is the third novel I wrote, but the first to be published. In fact, it's what became of a failed second novel, a novel named Willie June. And that too was a novel at its core to celebrate mothers. Why did I want to do that? Because I want my own mom and I had the most fantastic relationship, and I wanted to honor that. While I was writing the book, my mother got very, very sick, and my mother died in the process of my writing the book. I eventually finished it. Yeah, what a loss.
Yes.
Thank you, Sheryl. I eventually finished it, but I just got to tell you, it just didn't work. I created the main character, Sarah Creamer, Emerson Bridge in the novel, two of the characters in One Good Mama Bone. But darling, it just didn't work. And I fell in love with Sarah, and I just flat didn't know what to do to fix it, nor did I have any energy, brain power, nothing. So I put it up.
Okay.
And then
for how
in
long?
2004, let's see, this would have been in, let's just say 2004, I finished it.
Okay.
And I didn't know what to do to fix it. So 4 years. So I got busy about life. And actually, the novel that I'm writing right now, that material for this book chose me. And so I began that research. And I spent 3 years doing that research. And then, November 5th, I remember the day, 2008, I'm back in Anderson at the family farm. And it's in the midst of a weaning when you separate the mama cows from the babies.
Oh,
it's a standard farming practice. Yes, it's 6 to 8 months. The farmers are hoping that the mama cows are pregnant, so they need their milk for themselves and their new baby. But if you've never heard it, you'll never. It's mournful. It's like, oh, the mama's calling for the baby's calling for the mamas. Well, here's the deal. At 5 o'clock in the morning, those sounds woke me up. And what's interesting to me is I had heard those sounds, or wait a minute, let me say it another way. I had been exposed to those sounds my entire life. 18 years I lived on that farm, Sheryl.
And it never
heard them. You? Never, ever affected me. But on November 5th, 2008, those sounds affected me. They woke me up. I get dressed. I go outside. It's in the dark. The mama cows huddled at this fence 30 yards away, their babies, and these sounds, sounds. Oh my gosh. And I don't know if you've ever felt this or not, but those sounds just got in my bones. I just felt this quivering electricity through my body. And I knew in front of me was the missing piece of the story about mothers that I wanted to tell. So there was this cow in the deep corner whose eyes were cut at me. I felt pleading with me to bring her baby back. And so I walked over to her and I said, sweetie, I can't bring your baby back, darling, but I can tell your story.
Oh, my goodness.
So, this all probably happened in 2 minutes being on site like that. And so out with the old, just by, even though it taken me 5 years to write it, it was gone. I did, though, want to keep Sarah Creamer, and I did want to keep Emerson Bridge. And so I only had that to work with going into the Mama Bone story. And it's set against the backdrop of a time-honored tradition for boys and now girls, where they feed out a steer for the county fair. And my own father did that in 1941. In fact, he was the first grand champion winner in Anderson.
Wow.
And when I was a little girl, I found a newspaper clipping of that moment. He was on the front page. He won $330 in 1941. Edwin McClain, 14 years old, blah, blah, blah.
That's a lot of money for back then.
That's tons.
Yeah.
And I remember taking it to him and I said, Daddy. And he said, where'd you get that? Put that back. I said, Daddy, it was in the Bible. He said, I should put that back. And I thought, now that is a very strange reaction to this. What? Yeah. So I did as he said, and I put it back. But I would revisit it, a few times over the years, and it was always the same reaction. So when I was looking for a backdrop, an actual plot, because something needs to happen for Mama Bone, is I recalled that. And so I used that as my subject matter because Sarah is poor, and she hears about this contest with entering the steer to feed out for the county fair. And so I did that research and wrote about that so that I could understand my daddy's reaction. And when I found out why he reacted that way, I went to him, and he didn't really want me to write about that. He kept telling me as I was writing my novel, get your mind on something else, Bren. Go get your mind on something else. And it's because he had to get his mind on something else. That's why. Because he said, Brent, and I might now get this now. My daddy, who we lost 3 years ago, was a Southern Baptist, very conservative, very crusty, old-timey kind of guy.
Okay.
Except that when I told him, I said, Daddy, I know why you never wanted me to do this. And I told him, and he teared up, Sheryl.
Wow.
He teared up. My daddy in his 80s teared up. And he said to me, I sold out my best friend.
Oh.
And so I understood what he was going through. So this novel helped me unlock, that in my own father.
He had carried that around with him since he was 14 years old.
Yeah, and he would have been probably, let's just say he was 84. So do the math. Girl, that's 70 years.
That's a lot of time to carry around those feelings and that pain. But
yes.
How lucky he is to have a daughter that could understand and put that out there.
So it just brought us so much, so much closer. So much. I mean, that moment I'll cherish for the rest of my days.
Oh, that is wonderful. So once you got this book written, or as you're writing, did you reach out to other writers in a critique group, or did you have a writing partner? How did that process go? Because I mean, I know from my experience, what you start with is not what you end up with.
No, oh gosh, no. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've met writers who really don't like going to critique groups or conferences, workshops, and, all of those opportunities that we can do. But I do, and I did. I have done, oh my gosh, so many conferences, workshops. I like the social aspect of it because writing is solitary, and I've met so many friends. I've done, 3-week-long retreats. I've gone to Italy. I've gone to Greece to do this. Wow. I've gone to the Maui Writers Conference. I've done, all kinds of stuff all over the South. When I lived in Atlanta, I took a class at Callenwald for 12 weeks. I always tend to be in a writing critique group. And I think early on, I needed a whole lot of that. And I think what I was doing too, Sheryl, is I was looking for validation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can relate to that.
You can. What I really wanted was I wanted someone to take, those baby words of mine and say, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful, Bren. This is beautiful, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
I'll tell you that I seldom got that though. I got
not from other writers.
Beat up. No, beat up. I mean, I got crushed, but I always kept going. And I've had some people say, Bren, why do you even subject yourself to that? Why? But I think I was still looking for that validation. And I'm just getting a visual now of a funnel. And so you go at the wide part up there, all right? And that was my early writing life. And I went to conference, workshop, critique groups. Oh my gosh. And then as I'm coming on down, and I started writing fiction September 17th, 1988. I remember the day I started. So you can do the math to know that I've been at this a long time.
You have.
So,
yes.
Up there, I mean, that cone is wide. And then, you come on down through the years and it just gets more and more narrow, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that today, I'm a member of a critique group in Nashville. We meet once a month at the farmer's market. We've been together for, probably 8 or 9 years. And none of us write the same thing, but each of us is willing to step in the other writer's world on the other writer's terms. I mean, you've probably been in critique groups where people say, well, if this was mine, what I would do is blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Well, the thing is, it's not yours. To offer valuable feedback, you've got to be willing to go into that writer's world, to want to honor what that writer is wanting to do.
Yes.
And so I've got that kind of setup now. And then I also have a writing partner, Jana Sasser.
Oh, yes.
She and I met. We've been partners for 15 years.
Oh,
we read each
idea.
Other's, a long time. Yeah. And if I only needed one set of feedback, it would be Jana's. That's it. That's really all I need. But we also know each other's hearts and honor it.
Yes. And that's a wonderful thing. You can trust her.
I can trust her. She's got my best interest, and I have hers.
Mm-hmm. And you know that she is an amazing author too, and there is no way she can give you the wrong advice. She is going to steer you in the right direction.
She's so brilliant. I mean, let's mention the title of her novel, Bird.
Yes, that is
Folks
an amazing
should check that out.
novel.
It is her calling card is her imagination. It's unparalleled. You talking about fresh and original. I mean, that's Jana. She publishes under J.C. Sasser, we should say.
Yeah, she's as good of a person and as fun of a person as she is writer. She's just an all-around amazing person. All around
amazing person. So Jana, we're writing partners, and so I'm just fully loaded. I have everything I need.
You are so very blessed. I know that I started going to a writing critique group a year and a half ago or so. I was bringing sections from my second book that I really was insecure about because I haven't been writing as long as you have. I started my novel, it's probably been 7 or 8 years now, but it hasn't been that long. And, I presented a chapter to this group, and a lot of it had different cultural things because it was set in a village in India back in the 60s. And of course, I have a lot of knowledge about this because of my husband and his family. And the people in this critique group didn't even want to understand because it was different. And I actually had someone in the group write on there, I don't understand anything about this culture, so I can't help you with this chapter.
Oh my God.
And I was like, wow. So I kind of shut myself down, and I didn't really reach out to try to find anybody else. It kind of scarred me a little bit. So now I need to get out and, I need to find me a Jana. So if my Jana is out there, come on, call me.
Your Jana is, and it's somebody that's, and we don't need a bunch, Sheryl. You know what? We need, 1, 2. That's it. We don't need, I had somebody tell me, who owns a bookstore in New Orleans, a very wise man, tell me one time, he said, Bren, be careful who you let read your work. And I didn't understand it at the time because that was in my wide open, every door open. I need validation stage. But really, you have to find someone you can trust with your work. And that can be very hard to do, but you have to, how you meet them is to, go to these critique groups that have several people in them and see if you find a connection with somebody. Go to a writing conference, meet people. And then, pay attention to who you connect with.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. And that kind of brings me to the topic of how you and I met.
Right.
Because I felt like we had an instant connection.
Totally.
Yeah. So we met in our books were a part of this group where we traveled around the Southeast to different independent bookstores. And there was a musician that took our book and wrote a beautiful song, and yours was so beautiful. It was such an amazing experience. And then there was
a visual artist who creates something original based on the book, a song based on the book. Yeah, it was awesome.
And that was just such a wonderful communion of art and spirit between, all of us artists and the audience and the readers. Wasn't that just an amazing thing?
It was glorious. Yeah. It was, it was on fire. It was so alive. And I got to meet you through it.
Yes.
And that was one of the big blessings, just meeting new, wonderful folks. You and I, here we go now.
Yeah, that's right. It's probably been year and a half, 2 years later.
It's awesome. It's just awesome.
Yeah. And for me, I felt like, okay, I'm a grown up writer now. I'm among these people that are real authors, because I always felt, that about myself, like, oh, I'm not a real author. But I got to stand up there with all of y'all. So that was a great.
No, it's awesome. No, it was just it was a beautiful experience.
Yes. And it's so wonderful to be able to connect with other writers and just feel their spirit and let that sort of feed your own writing, your own creativity.
Yeah. And then to see, what all art has in common, songwriting and, painting, my visual artist created an apron for Sarah,
Yes.
And I loved seeing, all of those different kinds of expressions. I thought it was beautiful.
Yes, I did too. Absolutely. And, I think I kind of learned to laugh at myself a little bit more than usual because of course, you're used to getting up in front of people and talking, but I was not. And so, man, I would stumble up on that stage or stumble around my words or, whatever. But it did give me the confidence to, be able to show myself, yes, I can do this. And people do want to hear what I have to say. So
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And of course, your book is so interesting and your own life experience is so interesting. I loved always for you to get up and talk about your book. I mean, it was always fresh. I mean, you never said the same thing. And I always enjoyed, your own telling of your story.
Well, thank you. And, I never said the same thing because I never could remember what I was supposed to say. So I just made it up on the fly.
And God bless Dharma. She accompanied you a lot.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And yes. there were times when I would call him out, talking about, what it was like to live with an Indian man and how that fueled my book. Because writing that book was sure cheaper than going to therapy. And I needed a good therapy. So he has been a very good sport.
Yeah. So that was just beautiful stuff, girl.
Yeah. It definitely was. So, I definitely learned to laugh at myself. And of course, I've been able to laugh at myself through my family and, the fobbles that I've done with my kids and stuff like that. So,
yeah. Are
you able to laugh at yourself? Is there anything that has taught you in your life? What makes you laugh at yourself? Give me some stories.
Well, I will tell you that I probably didn't do it early. Well, yes, I did. What am I thinking? My mother, I learned humor from my mom. My mother loved to laugh, Sheryl.
Oh.
And we, would just be silly. I learned to be silly. I mean, we were kind of like Lucy and Ethel. I'll give you a story from my past, and I can give you several from now just to show you. And it's being playful. I remember driving the car. I was probably 16 or 17 years old, going down Whitehall Road around the corner by the fire station, if anybody from Anderson's listening, near the Centerville community. I remember going around that corner, and it was as blue of a sky as you could possibly have. Mom and I had been to town.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered all of a sudden we looked at each other, and we wanted to play like it was raining. I don't know why. Turn the windshield wipers on. And I turned my headlights on and just was creeping down the road like I was in a violent rainstorm. Oh, and Mom's like hunkered down and I'm hunkered down behind the steering wheel, and we was playing, just silly kind of things. And then, I grew up and tried to be professional and everything. I'll tell you about a crazy story. It came out of here in Nashville. When I first moved here, one of the wonderful things about Nashville is it has an unparalleled, supportive writing community. And I say unparalleled, meaning from any other place I've ever lived.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I just stepped into a gold mine here. Mm-hmm. I was at a party last night, for example, and you go to these gatherings and they started inviting me, when I first moved here 10 years ago, and I was not published yet, but that didn't matter. I mean, I went to parties with bestsellers, New York Times bestsellers, movie producers, a lot of people who live here in Nashville. And there was not this ranking class system.
Oh.
And so it was a beautiful thing. So anyway, the first year I was here, I moved here in September. In December, we were going to have a Christmas gathering at a restaurant in Green Hills, and you were at Green Hills. It's where Parnassus is. Sheryl, do you remember that? Mm-hmm. It's a nice very respectable, nice part of Nashville. Yeah. Well, that's where it was. And so, oh my gosh. So we're going to have a luncheon. I think we're supposed to be there at 11:15, something like that. And so I remembered, me and my little cowboy get up. I bought a new Western shirt because there's a lot of Western wear here in Nashville. I had, my boots and all this kind of stuff. I was going to leave early. Oh, it was just perfect, wasn't it? Just perfect. Well, except I get out to my car and the battery's dead.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
That always happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm like nothing, like nothing. Well, the only other vehicle here would be an old farm truck, okay? Yes, be an old farm truck. And they're called
Uber's
farm trucks.
Not going to go out there and pick you up, huh?
No,
no,
because I live, like 45 minutes away. Because I live out in the boonies, and I got to go to that, really rich section of Nashville. Ooh. So here I am in all my new little get up. Got my makeup, got my hair, blah blah blah, and I've got to drive this farm truck that basically just sets out in the yard and moves hay around here and over here, right? I go, oh my gosh. So I get it and I go to town and I'm just like, my blood pressure is going up because I'm starting to get very, very anxious.
Because you're pulling
oh my God.
Yeah, you're going into the swanky part of town.
I'm going into that Green Hills. Yes, it was in a mall. It's in the Green Hills Mall is where this restaurant is, right across the road from Parnassus. You remember that, section over there. So I'm going in. So I finally get there and I'm like almost in tears. Well, guess what? It started to rain now. Okay. By this point, it started to rain. And I finally pull into... this is God getting me back for playing like it was raining, isn't it? Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he did send rain. And so, I pull into this. It's Christmas time and people shopping now. Let's just get the whole scene here now at Parnassus. And I finally pull into, the parking lot and I'm kind of winding my way through because this restaurant was kind of at the back part. Well, I'm going in. And, bumper to bumper traffic, people looking for parking spaces. And I'm up in this old farm truck. And to my left, I look down to my left and there's this beautiful black Mercedes. Beautiful. Sports car.
Right next to you.
And this woman is like telling me to roll the window down. And she's doing that circular thing because I'm in such an old farm truck, it was a still kind of thing as she's in this fancy Mercedes. And so I roll my window down and she says this to me, excuse me. I think your tailgate fell off back there.
No.
Yeah, I think your tailgate. And I went, oh my God, started to rain. It's getting late. I don't know where I'm going to park. And my tailgate has fallen off in the Green Hills parking lot.
And you're getting ready to go meet a bunch of best-selling authors at a lunch,
best-selling, right? They've welcomed me into their tribe, all of that. So my God, I looked and there it was. And I also saw a man in the middle of the road, like picking it up so people wouldn't run over it and prop it up by a tree. So I had to snake my way in traffic to get back over there. And I did. And by this point, Sheryl, I was tearing up a little bit.
Yeah, I guess so.
It was just getting to be a little too much. Mm-hmm. So he puts it in the back. And I'm like late now. I'm like 10 minutes late. And I go, make my way back towards that restaurant. And I see that it says a sign that says valet. I went, oh yeah, valet parking. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Right. So I pull up and the guy actually, and I'm getting ready to get my purse and to get out of the truck, right? Guess what he says to me? He says, ma'am, deliveries around back.
No.
Yes.
Oh, did you cry? Like, did tears just start falling?
I think I probably let it go at that point. And I said, sir, I'm not here to make a delivery. I'm here to have lunch, actually, with a gathering. Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I can just imagine the look on his face trying to figure that one out.
Oh my gosh. Because it's the kind of restaurant, like in Beverly Hills, how they pull the Mercedes out when they valet park.
Yeah. Oh, and then you pull up with your tailgate falling off.
Farm tray with yeah. So anyway, I get in and I didn't tell you this part. So as I'm getting the tailgate in the back of the truck, I get soaking wet because I don't have an umbrella, right? So I get into the restaurant. I'm probably 15 minutes late at this point, and water is dripping off my hair. I'm soaking wet.
You poor thing. Bless your heart.
I know. But listen, they still let me hang out because I was at a party last night. That's crazy, Bren.
You just have to walk into a room when they're all there and just go, Bren McClain is here. Just go look for the tailgate out on the front porch. Or something.
Bren McClain in the house. Oh my gosh, Sheryl. So that just kind of, okay. So if I was like getting above my raising at all, that just kind of leveled me out a little bit here, girl.
Yep. Doesn't the universe always have a way of doing that? Boy, boy.
But I've never made that connection with the, playing with mama in the rain and then this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Isn't that wonderful how you just get to talking about things and it'll make, yeah. Wow. So when you go into a restaurant, so you're a vegetarian. And so you go into that restaurant for the luncheon with them. That made me think of this. So what caused you to be a vegetarian? Was it that experience with Mama Red?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I had flirted.
That was the turning point?
That was boom. That was crossing the line. Mm-hmm. But all my life I'd flirted with it, meaning that I would do it and then, not, and do it and then not, do it and then not. Because I never was attracted to meat. Really, anyway, I liked all the other stuff around it. Really,
me too.
But you too. I like all the other stuff. But in the South now, I mean, it's all about the meat.
Oh yeah, and even green beans. My mom would make green beans with ham hocks and bacon, and
yeah. Oh, totally.
It's just everywhere. It's in everything.
It's just everywhere. Meat is kind of king. And I grew up in that world. Mm-hmm. So when I was doing the research for Mama Bone, remember I said I set it against the backdrop of that 4-H business, eating out the steer. Well, so in doing the research, I went to Ashland, Kentucky, where they still have that same world, and interviewed kids that were doing it. And they introduced me to this little boy, 6 years old, who was doing this.
Wow.
And the director of the fair introduced me and blah, blah. And I said, "Hey, sweetie." He said, "Hey." I said, "Darling, what you doing?" And he says, I'm going to show my steer. That's what he said. Snaggletooth, little Tractor Supply outfit on, belt buckle, little Wrangler outfit. So cute. I said, and darling, I'm going to be in there. I'm going to be cheering you on. I'm going to watch the show. And I said, "And then what are you going to do, sweetie?" And I was thinking, because we're at a fair, he would say, "I'm going to go get some cotton candy. I'm going to go ride the merry-go-round. I'm going to go candy apple, But no, girl, his bottom lip started quivering.
Oh.
And I went, "Oh, no. Oh, gosh." And he took his eyes off of me, and his steer was beside him, and he just started running his flat hand, loving him on his side. Just loving him. And I went, "Oh my gosh." And the little boy brought his eyes back to mine, and I'm just going, "Oh God, Bren." And he said this, he said, "I'm going to have to kill it."
A 6-year-old.
And 6-year-old. And I just, it just took my breath away. And I said, "Darling, I'm so sorry." And he said this to me, "But not tonight." Because that part of the show would be taking place the next day. And I'll tell you this, he went missing for 2 hours. They had to delay the auction because of him.
Oh, was it because he just couldn't face it?
Yes. Yes.
What a thing to have to go through.
That's when I crossed the line. That was when all dots were connected in my life and my heart. And so that's when it happened.
I can understand that. I didn't grow up having any connection with animals as living human beings. All I've ever known is them being just a slab of meat in the grocery store. Yeah. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, darling.
But, right. Dharmesh, my husband, grew up as a vegetarian. Of course, it's part of the religion because he grew up Hindu. But he also said that his dad was an electrician in their community in South Africa. And so he had to go to a slaughterhouse at one point to do some work. And Dharmesh went with him. And he said he got to hear those cows being slaughtered. And he smelled that smell. And he said, "I don't care whether it's religion or not. I'm never going to put any animal through that just because I want to eat." And he has stuck with it. He's never had beef. And I've tried. I've flirted with vegetarianism, and I've tried really hard, and I haven't been very good at it. I'll be good about not eating it, and then every once in a while I'll think, oh, gosh, I just got to have it. And
I know.
I've just got to have that that conviction to keep me from doing it, because I feel in my heart that it's wrong what they do to those animals. I do.
Yeah, but you've never seen it or heard it. Maybe, back to connecting those dots, Dharmesh had an experience that did for him in a big personal way. I did too. And I'd heard about, what happens at slaughterhouses and all that kind of stuff. I mean, growing up on the farm, we killed, a cow a year and took it to the abattoirs, what we called it. And then Anderson Frozen Foods, we would go and pick it up. We'd have our roast and our steaks and our hamburgers and blah, blah, blah. So I participated in that my entire life, but I had not connected those dots. I think it's something about a personal connecting of dots. I have, back to Mama Bone, I've had people tell me that after reading that book, they don't eat meat. In fact, a lady who did my book this past week in a book club, and I were talking, and she told me that after she read my book, she hasn't touched it since then.
Wow.
So reading Mama Bone for her was that personal connecting of dots.
Isn't that amazing? That, the power of fiction, the power of any kind of reading, fiction or nonfiction, but what it can do for the reader and how you connect with them. Wow.
Yeah, that's something. And can I tell you about the biggest honor that I think I've had with this book? And it ties into this. I mean, it's really just moves me to my core.
Sure.
I did a luncheon, and it's along the coast of South Carolina, Litchfield Books does something called a movable feast. And I did it really early in my book tour, and we were meeting at an Italian restaurant. And the lady introduced me and said these words. She said, Bren, and she looked at the ladies out there. She says, in honor of Mama Red, we will serve no meat here today.
Wow.
They had pasta primavera. That's what they served. And I will never forget it. I'm still floored.
Yes.
That's a top of the mountain experience for me right there.
Absolutely. Because those people took so much from what you poured your heart into. And it truly is your heart, what you put into that book. Wow.
Yes, heart.
That is amazing.
Yeah. And so, it's been more awesome than awesome.
I can just tell. That is fantastic. So what do you expect? You're working on your second book. So what do you expect from that? Are you trying to convey that same sort of heart and a lesson to your readers with this next book? Well,
and let me just state again, you came up with this, that I write about the underrepresented. So here I go again. Yes.
Yes.
It seems to be a theme for me. And this time it's based on a real woman who lived in South Carolina, who refused to give the federal government the right of way to build a 4-lane blacktop through the middle of her farm into the Savannah River hydrogen bomb plant.
Okay.
This was the nation's largest use of eminent domain in a time of peace. They didn't need her whole farm. They just needed to run a road through it to transport workers from North Augusta into the bomb plant. And she said no. And so that interests me. But what interests me the most is what happened to her. She, her land was condemned. Here come the bulldozers anyway. And on August 27th, 1951, she gets a shotgun out there, girl, and holds it on him.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She says, I said, you're not coming through my farm. No. But there, nonetheless, here's the dust flying and everything. Well, they stopped operations. They called the cops. Girl, this is all true. I'm not making this up. I know I'm a fiction writer, but this is true. They called the cops. They got her under control. And most people would think, what? They, take her to jail, slap her hand, make her stay overnight, give her a fine.
Right. Just scare
whatever.
her up a little bit.
You just scare her up a little bit,
Yeah.
Girl, they took her, and her brother was out there with her too. They took them both, and she was 54 years old. Her brother was 48. They took them both to Bull Street in Columbia and committed them in the state mental institution.
What?
Declared them both, yes, this is all true, declared them both mentally incompetent and kept them for 16 years.
16 years.
16 years. And I'm writing a novel inspired by this woman. Again, underrepresented. Her life was thrown away. She was dispensable, obviously, right?
Right.
But no, darling, I'm writing her story.
You're telling her story. You are doing her justice. Is she still living? I'm assuming not, since it was in the 50s.
No, she was born in 1897. She died in 1980.
Wow.
Yeah, so she's been passed for a while, but I am here as her voice.
Yes.
Again, the underrepresented, and I'm telling her story. That's what is occupying me right now. Hook, line, and sinker.
I love that. You really are the voice of the voiceless, those that really can't tell their stories. I love that. Wow.
So that's what I'm up to. Yes.
Hey, so when do you think that this book is going to be done? The $1 million question.
Agent, I know. Here's what I'm hoping for, girl. By year's end or early, January, February next year, I'm going to take the word hoping out, because that's just a excuse word.
Yes.
I'm going to. All right. Let's just commit.
Okay.
I'm going to have it in really, really good shape to give to my agent. That's it. I'm going on record saying that right now.
Okay. So we're definitely holding you to it. I'm going to check back with you then. I'll be calling you.
Okay. Do it. Duly noted. I'm making a note. Sheryl will check back with me.
You got to do the same thing with me for my manuscript, because I am dragging my butt getting this thing done.
Well, I will be your accountability partner.
Okay.
I would love to. Let's do that for each other. Okay.
Yes. We'll have a monthly check-in where we have to report in.
Well, I think that would be good. I mean, I'm up for that. The first of every month or the end of every month, what have you done? And then what is your goal for the next month?
Yeah, absolutely.
Something simple like that. I'm in for it. Sure.
We need to support each other. Definitely. We writers have it hard enough as it is.
Gosh, yeah. No, I'm in. In fact, I'm leaning over right now. I'm making that note. You're going to get a report from me, girl.
Uh-oh, I can't get out
on the last day of this month. I mean it. I am. I'm going to do that.
Oh, I'm stuck now. I better start working.
Yeah, I mean, millions of people now have heard this. And so, yes, I put Sheryl report. I've already got it on Sunday, June 30th. It's written down.
Oh, boy. Well, I'm stuck. I better follow through, and you better follow through, too.
Yes, I am.
So what kind of advice? I know that, there's probably some aspiring authors out there that are listening because I'm sure they've seen you on social media and on TV, and, they want to know, how can I be like Bren McClain? How can I get to the point?
Oh, good luck.
You've got one of those amazing books. You've got an amazing story, an amazing presence. And I know that there are people that are looking to you and saying, this is the success that I want. How can I get there? So what kind of advice would you have to somebody, maybe a young person in college, or just somebody that's thinking, I have a story to tell, and how do I do that? How do they get started?
Well, the first thing I think is you have to ask yourself why you're writing. Why do you want to write? I mean, is it just something that you're just messing around with? How important is it? I mean, for me, my answer is, I feel like I was put on this earth to write. I feel it's part of my destiny. So if I don't do it, I feel like I've messed up.
Right.
I've not lived up to my life's purpose. So I would ask people that. And if the answer is, this is part of my destiny, all right, then let's get going. So it's, giving yourself permission to do that.
Yes.
And I come from the school that you're telling the story that only you can tell. And so if you don't, the world will be it'll be a void in this world without your story.
Oh, yeah, that's a great.
And so it's on you. It's on you to do it. It's really on you to. It's not something that you can, skip out on if you think of it that way. Because if you think of it as this was given to me and only I can do it, then you must.
Yes.
So that's believing in yourself and the why of you're doing it. I think it's important to have a community of support. We've talked about workshops or whatever, even if it's one person, because it can be very lonely. Just you and the page. I think having patience is important. Let it take the time it takes. I would forget the marketplace.
That's a big.
And that's really about making money. I don't know about writing to make money. To load your writing up, with that kind of expectation,
right?
No, I think it will close down on you if you load it up with that kind of expectation.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think,
anybody that becomes just writer to make money, they need to think again.
You better think again. Oh my gosh. And so it's, where I come from, and I'm probably overboard, but I give it everything I ever thought about having. And it might be because of the age I am.
Which is 29, right?
Yeah, 29 and a half. I will admit that. But I got to get to it and get on it. And so it's really kind of served me. I had no idea it would take me 27 years to publish a book. I had no idea. And I've asked myself before, Bren, if you knew that, would you still do it? And I think the answer is yes. Yes. Because I must. For me to write is for me to breathe. And so it's my way of making sense out of this world. And so, I also try and live in gratitude. And I don't want to benchmark. I don't want to look at other people, like back to Nashville and the bestsellers here, the people who do make money.
Right.
I was at a party with them last night. What if I started benchmarking and going, oh my gosh, well, I'm not like that. So no. Is to really be grateful for my own journey.
Yes.
And honor the perfection of that.
Yes. And I think, for people that are just getting started, I think giving yourself permission to feel that way is so key in just beginning and letting it go.
And letting it go and just paying attention to what opens up for you. Paying attention to, because I think when you're in the right vein, I think life will come right along with you and start opening doors and meeting people and hunches in your head and all kinds of other kind of resources. So being present in the now and looking for the gifts that you really will be given.
Yes, that is absolutely right on. That hits the nail right on the head, because you have to approach it with the right attitude, the right reasons, and be open to whatever gifts you can be given through that.
Yeah, and then knowing that your journey is your journey. It will be like no one else's. Don't ever compare yourself. Just be grateful in your own and be mindful of yours.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I just absolutely love hearing your positivity and just the positive journey and the positive message that you have just as a fellow writer, as a fellow human being. You're sort of a cheerleader and you have such a great spirit. And I'm so grateful that you were here to talk to me today. And I just wish you the best of luck in your next book and finishing that and having great success with that. So thank you so much for being here with me
You
today.
too. And I want to, the same for you, Sheryl. Thank you for your own generosity of doing this podcast, because you could be using this time to work on your own work. So thank you for expanding to this, because this was a real honor for me. And just know that we're all in this together. And I urge you on.
Well, thank you.
As I do all writers. I mean, I think we're here to encourage each other,
Yes.
not break down, but encourage.
Amen. Amen.
Amen to that. Amen. Yes. Amen. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Right.
Yes.
Woo.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. And I look forward to,
You are more
I
than
look forward to
welcome.
talking to you again very soon.
Thanks, Sheryl. I appreciate it a bunch. Okay.
If you like this podcast so far, please continue following along by tapping the subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts. If you really liked it, go on, be awesome, and leave a rating and a review. Find me on all social media too by searching Sheryl with an S, Parbhoo, that's Parbhoo. Thanks for listening to Southern Life Indian Wife.
Let's be honest, there are tons of ways to send money back home, and every company promises me the same things: good rates and safe transfers. That's why it can be overwhelming to choose a new way to send money. I switched to Remitly because I can track my money every step of the way, which means I know exactly when my mom will get her money. And with their extensive payment network, my mom can receive her money in a way that is more convenient and safe for her. You should check it out. Go to Remitly.com or download their app to get started. Remitly Inc. is a licensed money transmitter by the state of New York, California, Massachusetts, and other states.